First contact. Commander James Romano had seen his fair share of strange encounters during his 15 years with the Earth Defense Force. There was the time he had to negotiate with crystalline beings who communicated exclusively through interpretive dance. Then there was that memorable incident with a hyper-intelligent shade of blue that kept trying to explain quantum physics through knock-knock jokes. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared him for the pink memo that appeared on his command console that Tuesday morning. He'd been in the middle of his routine patrol aboard the EDF Phoenix, definitely not playing his 7th round of Galactic Solitaire, when Lieutenant Parker's voice crackled over the comms. "Commander Romano, sir. You might want to see this." James minimized his game, tactical display, and pulled up the incoming transmission. "What have you got for me, Parker?" It's a message, sir. From an unknown alien species." The message that popped up on his screen was written in Comic Sans. Comic Sans. In space. James blinked hard, wondering if he'd finally cracked after too many late-night patrols, but no, there it was, in all its pastel-colored glory. "Dearest humans of Earth. We hope this message finds you well. We are the Zixtorians of the greater galactic community, and we regret to inform you that we will be destroying your civilization in approximately 47 Earth minutes. Please ensure all your affairs are in order and don't forget to back up your cat videos. Have a wonderful day. Sincerely. Supreme Commander Klaxon the Inevitable. P.S. We've included a customer satisfaction survey regarding your impending doom. Your feedback is important to us." James stared at the message for a full minute before responding. "Parker, is this someone's idea of a joke? Did Thompson hack the comms again?" "Negative, sir. The message origin traces back to a massive vessel that just appeared at the edge of our solar system. And sir, they're actually sending out survey forms." He pinched the bridge of his nose. After 15 years in space, James thought he'd seen everything. But a hyperpolite alien invasion complete with customer feedback forms? That was a new one. "All right, patch me through to Earth Command. And Parker? Delete that survey before anyone fills it out. The last thing we need is to give these guys marketing data along with our planet." As James waited for the connection to Earth Command, he couldn't shake the feeling that this Tuesday was about to get a lot weirder. And considering his usual Tuesdays involved space pirates who only spoke in limericks and sentient gas clouds with existential crises, that was saying something. General Martinez's face appeared on his screen, her expression cycling through confusion, amusement, and exasperation. "Romano, please tell me this is payback for last year's Christmas party karaoke incident." "I wish it was, General. Though I still maintain that karaoke machine was rigged." "So you're telling me," Martinez continued, pinching the bridge of her nose, "that we've received a doom announcement in Comic Sans, complete with a customer satisfaction survey?" "Yes, ma'am. And they just sent a follow-up email apologizing for any inconvenience their apocalyptic invasion might cause." That's when the massive alien ship decided to demonstrate exactly why they should have taken their pastel-colored threat seriously. The vessel, which looked suspiciously like a giant space Roomba, opened what James could only describe as the world's largest dustbuster attachment. "Sir." Parker's voice crackled over the comms again. "They're charging some kind of weapon. Analysis shows it's, sir, I don't know how to say this professionally, but it appears to be a vacuum cleaner. A really, really big vacuum cleaner." James watched as the business end of the space vacuum began to glow with an ominous pink light. Because apparently, these aliens were committed to their aesthetic. "Are they trying to vacuum up Earth?" James asked, already knowing the answer but hoping he was wrong. "Based on these readings, yes, sir. Yes, they are." The absurdity of the situation hit James like a caffeine crash. Here they were, humanity's first line of defense, facing what appeared to be the love child of a Death Star in a household cleaning appliance. And the worst part? It was working. The massive vacuum beam shot toward Earth, and suddenly everything not bolted down started floating upward. Cars, trees, the occasional unfortunate squirrel, all began drifting upward. From his vantage point in orbit, it looked like the world's weirdest garage sale. Supreme Commander Romano, a cheery voice interrupted his existential crisis. On his view screen appeared what looked like a purple octopus wearing a business casual sweater vest. "I'm Supreme Commander Klaxon. I trust you received our courtesy notice." "The Comic Sans one." "Yeah, got that." "Quick question, what the hell?" "Oh, splendid. We do pride ourselves on clear communication. Now, about our ultimate weapon of planetary doom, yes, we trademarked it, the paperwork was quite extensive. How would you rate its effectiveness on a scale of 1 to 5? 5 being absolutely terrifying and 1 being mildly inconvenient. James watched as a hot dog cart floated past his ship's viewport. "I'm going to have to go with absolutely ridiculous, which I notice isn't on your scale." "Ah, that would fall under other in our survey. Would you mind elaborating on that response? Your feedback helps us improve our apocalyptic services." Before James could tell Commander Klaxon exactly where he could stick his survey, Earth Command burst back onto the channel. "Romano, the situation is critical. That vacuum beam isn't just lifting objects, it's somehow collecting and weaponizing something far worse than physical matter." "What could be worse than a giant space vacuum?" The answer that came back made him wish he was dealing with the rap battle aliens again. "It's harvesting human embarrassment, and it's about to unleash 15 years worth of collected cringe back at Earth." James looked at the cheerful purple octopus on his screen, still patiently waiting with his survey tablet, and realized this might just be the most mortifying invasion in human history. And considering they once had to fend off aliens by convincing them that reality TV was actual documentary footage, that was saying something. The cringe offensive. You know that feeling when you remember something embarrassing you did 10 years ago while trying to fall asleep? The Zixtorians had weaponized that. Their vacuum wasn't collecting physical matter, it was harvesting every awkward moment, every cringe-worthy memory, every unfortunate fashion choice from the early 2000s that humanity collectively wished it could forget. Behold! Commander Klaxon announced with all the enthusiasm of a telemarketer who's about to make quota. Phase 2 of our ultimate weapon of planetary doom. Screens flickered to life across the globe, forcing everyone to watch their most embarrassing moments. James Romano's own command console betrayed him, showing footage of his third-grade talent show where he attempted to juggle water balloons while singing, "I Will Survive." Spoiler alert, he did not, in fact, survive. "Sir," Parker's voice wavered as she watched herself trip and faceplant during her college graduation ceremony, "this is possibly the worst thing that's ever happened to humanity. Worse than the time aliens challenged us to a galaxy-wide dance-off." "Sir, we won that one. This is different." She had a point. Around the world, people were being forced to relive their most mortifying moments. The guy who replied all to a company-wide email with a spicy meme, every person who ever walked into a glass door while trying to look cool, that one television host who thought Bitcoin was actually a physical coin. Your species' capacity for embarrassment is remarkable. Klaxon beamed through the view screen, adjusting his sweater vest with one tentacle while taking notes with another. Most civilizations we conquer only provide enough cringe energy to power our weapon for a few minutes, but humans? You're like an infinite renewable resource of awkward moments. The collected embarrassment began to form a swirling vortex of pure cringe above Earth's atmosphere. Inside, James could see flashes of people calling their teachers mom, accidentally liking their ex's social media posts from 3 years ago, and every single attempted public marriage proposal that went wrong. Our research shows that concentrated embarrassment is the most effective way to subjugate a species, Klaxon continued, now wearing reading glasses that James was pretty sure were just for show. Once a civilization is thoroughly mortified, they typically surrender just to make the awkwardness stop. We find it much more efficient than traditional warfare. Less paperwork, you see. Back on Earth, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. The International Embarrassment Crisis Center, hastily renamed from the International Emergency Crisis Center, reported widespread outbreaks of face-palming, nervous laughter, and people desperately trying to explain that it seemed like a good idea at the time. General Martinez organized an emergency conference call with world leaders, though it quickly devolved into chaos when the Zixtorians hijacked the feed to show footage of each leader's most embarrassing diplomatic gaffes. The Prime Minister of Canada was last seen crawling under his desk after everyone was reminded of the time he enthusiastically high-fived a cardboard cutout of himself. Romano, Martinez managed to communicate through what appeared to be several layers of mortification. We need options. Conventional weapons are useless against their ship, apparently. They're powered by passive-aggressive sticky notes and rejected meeting invites. James watched as another wave of cringe memories washed over the planet. This time, it was a compilation of every time someone had waved back at someone who was actually waving to the person behind them. The collective groan was audible from space. That's when Lieutenant Parker made a peculiar observation. "Sir, look at the readings from the embarrassment vortex. The energy signatures, they're similar to our old social media servers." "What are you getting at, Parker?" "Well, sir, you know how we've been storing decades worth of human social interaction. All those awkward posts, those midnight overshares, those pictures everyone wishes would just disappear." James's eyes widened as he caught on. "Are you suggesting we fight cringe with cringe?" "More than that, sir. I'm suggesting we weaponize our own embarrassment before they can use it against us. If we can't beat them at being professional, we beat them at being awkward." James straightened in his chair. "Parker, you're either brilliant or we've both finally lost it. Get me Earth Command, and find me everyone who's ever gone viral for doing something monumentally embarrassing. It's time to fight fire with secondhand embarrassment." The next few hours were a blur of activity as Earth's most mortifying moments were compiled into what Parker dubbed Operation Embrace the Cringe. They gathered viral video stars, internet celebrities who'd made careers out of their awkwardness, and that one guy who'd become a meme for accidentally sending his entire workplace a detailed review of his lunch. Meanwhile, the Zixtorians continued their assault, unaware that humanity was about to turn their greatest weapon against them. They'd made one crucial mistake: they assumed embarrassment was a weakness. They hadn't counted on humans' remarkable ability to not only survive mortifying situations but to turn them into entertainment. Supreme Commander Klaxon, James called out across the communication channel, trying to keep a straight face as he implemented their desperate plan. "Before you continue your invasion, we'd like to share something with you. Consider it cultural exchange." "Oh, how delightful." Klaxon clapped several tentacles together. "We do love learning about other cultures. Though usually we do it after the whole apocalyptic invasion thing. This is a bit unconventional." "Trust me," James said, giving Parker the signal, "unconventional is our specialty." What followed would go down in history as either humanity's most brilliant defense strategy or its most spectacular collective faceplant. As Parker activated their countermeasure, every screen on Earth and in orbit began broadcasting humanity's proudest achievements in the field of public embarrassment, not as moments of shame, but as celebrations of the human spirit's resilience. Flash mobs gone wrong. They had hundreds. Celebrities falling on stage. They had compilations. That time an entire university's worth of students tried to break the world record for largest synchronized dab and instead created what looked like a massive wave of simultaneous sneezing. They had it in 4K. But the coup de grace was yet to come. As the Zixtorians watched in fascination, humanity prepared to reveal its secret weapon, the internet's entire collection of deliberately cringe-worthy content, created by people who had long since transcended embarrassment and learned to embrace the awkward. Turning the tables. Operation Embrace the Cringe launched with all the grace of a penguin on roller skates, which, coincidentally, was one of the first videos in their arsenal. The Zixtorians' massive display screens, originally intended to broadcast humanity's shame, now showed an endless stream of intentionally awkward content that humans had proudly created over the years. "Sir," Lieutenant Parker reported from her station, trying to suppress a grin, "the Zixtorians appear to be confused." On the main view screen, Supreme Commander Klaxon's purple tentacles were tied in what looked like a sailor's knot as he tried to process what he was seeing. "I don't understand," he sputtered, adjusting his sweater vest nervously. "These humans are deliberately embarrassing themselves. And others are enjoying it." "Oh, you haven't seen anything yet," James replied, giving Parker the signal to launch Phase 2. "Lieutenant, show them the TikTok archives." What followed was a carefully curated collection of humanity's finest moments in intentional awkwardness. Dance challenges that looked like uncoordinated flailing set to music. People voluntarily eating spicy foods on camera and turning into human fire hydrants. Individuals recreating their most embarrassing childhood photos with painstaking accuracy. The Zixtorian ship's massive vacuum began to sputter and spark, its pink glow flickering uncertainly. Their weapon, designed to harvest and weaponize embarrassment, couldn't process the concept of voluntary cringe. "This defies all our research," Klaxon exclaimed, frantically flipping through what appeared to be a corporate PowerPoint presentation titled, "Conquering Through Cringe, a 5-Step Plan to Planetary Domination." "According to our metrics, exposure to embarrassing moments should be causing widespread surrender, not, whatever this is." On Earth, something remarkable was happening. As people watched their fellow humans proudly displaying their most awkward moments, a wave of liberation swept across the planet. If these content creators could embrace their cringe, why couldn't everyone else? The International Embarrassment Crisis Center reported a sudden surge in what they termed cringe acceptance. People began sharing their own embarrassing stories voluntarily, turning what the Zixtorians intended as psychological warfare into something approaching a global therapy session. "Sir," Parker called out, "you might want to see this. The energy readings from Earth, they're changing." James looked at his display and blinked in surprise. The swirling vortex of embarrassment above Earth was transforming. Instead of the sickly pink glow of mortification, it now pulsed with the multicolored energy of a million shared laughs, of people finding connection in their shared human moments. "What's happening to our weapon?" Klaxon demanded, his business-casual demeanor cracking as several of his tentacles began stress-knitting what appeared to be a sweater vest. "This isn't covered in the invasion manual." "Let me explain something about humans," James said, leaning back in his command chair with a smile. "We've mastered the art of turning embarrassment into entertainment. Those moments you thought would break us. We put them on t-shirts. We make them into memes. We turn them into Netflix specials." To demonstrate his point, Parker queued up their secret weapon, a compilation of every politician who'd ever been caught dancing in public, set to what had become Earth's unofficial anthem of embracing awkwardness, "Never Gonna Give You Up." The effect on the Zixtorians was immediate and devastating. Their ship systems, programmed to process and weaponize embarrassment, began to overload as they encountered something their algorithms couldn't compute, humans who had transcended shame. But our market research," Klaxon protested, now wearing the half-finished stress-knitted sweater vest. "Our focus groups. Our quarterly projections." "I'm afraid your data is outdated," James replied. "Humanity has evolved. We've developed an immunity to cringe, by becoming the cringe." That's when Parker made another startling discovery. "Commander, look at these readings. The Zixtorians, they're experiencing second-hand embarrassment from our lack of embarrassment." It was true. The aliens' sophisticated embarrassment harvesting technology was backfiring spectacularly, reflecting humanity's embraced awkwardness back at them. The massive space vacuum began to reverse, spewing out waves of what could only be described as concentrated authenticity. Klaxon's composure finally cracked. "This is highly unprofessional," he wailed, his tentacles frantically straightening office supplies that weren't even askew. "Where's your sense of propriety? Your corporate structure? Your organized shame. Welcome to Earth, James grinned. Where we turn social anxiety into a form of entertainment. The Zixtorian ship systems continued to malfunction as more and more humans joined in what was quickly becoming the galaxy's largest cringe compilation. Grandparents attempted to floss dance. CEOs shared their old emo band photos. Someone even unearthed footage of the United Nations General Assembly attempting to do the Macarena. But the real turning point came when humanity deployed its ultimate weapon, dad jokes. As waves of intentionally terrible puns swept across the globe, the Zixtorians' sophisticated cringe harvesting technology went into complete meltdown. Emergency protocol activated. Klaxon announced, now wearing multiple stress-knitted sweater vests. Initiating procedure, save face. The massive alien ship began to retreat, its vacuum attachment retracting like a scolded puppy's tail. But humanity wasn't done yet. As the Zixtorians fled, Earth's combined broadcasting power beamed one final message into space, a supercut of every awkward moment humans had proudly shared during the invasion, set to a kazoo cover of My Heart Will Go On. Sir, Parker reported, struggling to maintain her professional demeanor, the Zixtorians are sending one last transmission. The message that appeared on James's screen was no longer in Comic Sans. Instead, it was in Arial, the font of defeat. Dear humans. We regret to inform you that due to unprecedented levels of cringe immunity, we must postpone our apocalyptic invasion indefinitely. Your species' ability to not only survive embarrassment but to actively cultivate it has forced us to reconsider our entire business model. Please find attached our formal letter of surrender, along with a request for consultation on how to better embrace awkward moments. Mortifyingly yours. Supreme Commander Klaxon the inevitably embarrassed. P.S. Please disregard our previous customer satisfaction survey. We are currently undergoing a complete corporate restructuring. The awkward aftermath. In the weeks following what became known as the Great Cringe War, Earth experienced some interesting developments. For one thing, the Zixtorians' massive space vacuum had accidentally created the galaxy's first embarrassment-powered renewable energy source. Scientists were still trying to figure out how to harness the power of thousands of people simultaneously remembering that time they called their boss, Mom, but early results were promising. Commander James Romano found himself dealing with an unprecedented situation, alien refugees seeking asylum on Earth. Not because they feared persecution on their home world, but because they wanted to learn the art of cringe acceptance, as they called it. Let me get this straight, General Martinez said during their daily briefing, her eye twitching slightly as she reviewed the latest reports. The Zixtorians want to establish a cultural exchange program. Yes, ma'am, James replied, trying to maintain a straight face as he watched a group of purple-tentacled aliens attempting to recreate viral dance videos in the background of his view screen. They're calling it Operation Emergency Rebranding. Supreme Commander Klaxon, now sporting a tie-dyed sweater vest that he claimed was embracing chaos, had become Earth's most enthusiastic student of human awkwardness. He'd even started a TikTok channel called Tentacles of Truth, where he documented his journey from cringe harvester to cringe master. Today's lesson in human culture, Klaxon announced in his latest video, all 8 tentacles arranged in what he believed was a casual pose, is something called dad jokes. Watch as I attempt to master this advanced form of social interaction. The video cut to Klaxon approaching a human in the newly established Earth Zixtorian Cultural Center. Excuse me, he said, practically vibrating with anticipation, what do you call an alien who abandons their invasion plans? An unidentified fleeing object. The human's polite chuckle sent Klaxon into what the Zixtorian medical team described as acute joy overload. He had to be carried away by his assistants, all while mumbling, I did it. I created voluntary cringe. But not all Zixtorians were adapting as enthusiastically to the new paradigm. A splinter group, calling themselves the Professional Preservation Front, PPF, remained committed to their old ways. They picketed the cultural center with signs reading, "Keep Comic Sans Professional," and "Say No to Casual Fridays." Lieutenant Parker, who'd been monitoring their communications, brought their latest manifesto to James's attention. "Sir, you might want to see this. They're calling for a return to traditional values like properly formatted email signatures and mandatory cover sheets on all TPS reports." James reviewed the document, which was written in what appeared to be every professional font available. "Are they seriously trying to start a counter-revolution based on office etiquette?" "Yes, sir. They've even threatened to release everyone's browser history from the company computers." "The monsters," James muttered. But he had to admit, the situation required careful handling. The last thing they needed was an intergalactic incident over proper water cooler conversation protocols. Meanwhile, Earth's meme economy had reached unprecedented heights. The footage of the invasion, particularly the part where Klaxon's ship tried to vacuum up embarrassment only to be defeated by intentional cringe, had become the template for thousands of new formats. Vacuum of shame had replaced epic fail in the digital lexicon. The United Nations hastily established a Department of Interstellar Cultural Understanding, though their first meeting had to be rescheduled when someone accidentally set their virtual background to a meme of Supreme Commander Klaxon attempting to dab. Even the diplomatic corps had to adapt. Traditional protocols were rewritten to include sections on appropriate use of emoji in first contact situations and proper etiquette when an alien species challenges Earth to a dance-off. The official handbook was titled "So You've Made First Contact, a Guide to Keeping It Awkwardly Professional." But perhaps the most significant change came in the form of galactic social media. As news of Earth's unique defense strategy spread across the cosmos, other species began experimenting with voluntary embarrassment. The Andromedans, a typically stoic race of crystalline beings, started a trend of sharing their most symmetrical imperfections. The Nebulans, who communicated entirely through interpretive dance, began incorporating the robot into their formal diplomatic ceremonies. "The galaxy's changing," James remarked to Parker as they watched a holofeed of a Zixtorian meditation retreat where participants practiced mindful mortification techniques. "And I'm still not sure if we saved Earth through brilliant strategy or sheer absurdity." "Why not both, sir?" Parker replied, sending him a link to Klaxon's latest video, a frame-by-frame recreation of the "This is fine" meme, complete with tentacles holding a coffee cup. The Professional Preservation Front's resistance came to an appropriately awkward end when their leader, during a passionate speech about maintaining proper business attire in space, accidentally activated their phone's camera filter. The sight of a serious revolutionary making demands while sporting virtual cat ears and whiskers effectively ended any chance of their movement being taken seriously. Klaxon, ever the opportunist, immediately incorporated the incident into his corporate training seminars, now titled "Embracing the Awkward, a Guide to Post-Professional Success in the Galaxy." The seminars became so popular that there was talk of franchising them across 3 spiral arms of the Milky Way. As Earth settled into its new role as the galaxy's leading expert in turning social anxiety into entertainment, James couldn't help but wonder what other peculiarities of human nature might turn out to be secret weapons. They'd already proven that embarrassment could be more powerful than any conventional weapon. What else about humanity might confound the next alien invasion? He got his answer sooner than expected when the long-range sensors picked up a new signal. Another alien species was approaching Earth, and according to their initial message, they had a very serious bone to pick with humanity's approach to formal documentation. "Sir," Parker called out, her voice a mix of amusement and concern, "you might want to see this. They're called the bureaucrat icons, and they're very upset about our casual approach to paperwork." James looked at the incoming transmission, written in perfect Times New Roman, and felt a grin spreading across his face. If these aliens thought Earth's handling of embarrassment was unprofessional, wait until they saw how humans dealt with red tape. The final forms. The bureaucratic ship looked exactly like James Romano had expected, a giant floating filing cabinet, complete with perfectly labeled drawers and a cosmic scale in/out box. As it approached Earth's orbit, it began broadcasting what appeared to be the galaxy's longest terms and conditions document. "They want us to what?" General Martinez asked during the emergency briefing, her coffee cup frozen halfway to her lips. "Sign and notarize their declaration of war," James explained, scrolling through the 47,000-page document. "In triplicate. With blue ink only. They've also included a feedback form about our imminent destruction, but this one's mandatory." Lieutenant Parker, who'd been analyzing the bureaucraticans' transmission patterns, chimed in. "Sir, you should see their organizational structure. It's 17 layers of middle management deep. They don't even have a supreme leader, they have a supreme committee for determining whether they should have a supreme leader." The situation became even more complicated when Supreme Commander Klaxon, now Earth's self-appointed advisor on alien invasions, offered his expertise. He'd traded his tie-dyed sweater vest for one covered in motivational office quotes like, "Hang in there," and "Living my best cringe." "The bureaucrat icons are notorious across the galaxy," Klaxon explained, anxiously straightening a stack of papers that was already perfectly straight. "They once delayed an invasion for 3 centuries because someone filed the apocalyptic weapons requisition form under for apocalyptic instead of W for weapons." "So what you're saying is," James began, a familiar gleam in his eye, "they're very attached to their procedures." "Oh, absolutely. Their entire civilization runs on proper documentation. Did you know they have a standardized form for standardizing their standardization forms?" That's when James had an idea so ridiculous it just might work. After all, if humanity could weaponize embarrassment, why not bureaucracy? "Parker," he called out, "get me Earth's finest experts in malicious compliance. And find someone who really understands the DMV system. It's time to show these aliens how humans handle paperwork." Operation Red Tape Revolution began with a simple response to the bureaucraticans' declaration of war. Earth submitted their acknowledgement of receipt, but with a twist. They filled out every form perfectly, except they used Comic Sans for the signature block and included a hand-drawn smiley face in the official seal section. The response from the bureaucrat icon ship was immediate. Their filing cabinet drawers began opening and closing in what Parker described as visible distress. This is unprecedented," the bureaucraticans' chief form validator sputtered through the comms. Their face, which appeared to be a sentient rubber stamp, was turning red with indignation. "You can't just add unauthorized expressions of emotion to official documentation." "Oh, we apologize," James replied smoothly. "We'll submit a correction right away. We'll just need you to fill out these forms first." He transmitted what appeared to be a simple request for documentation amendment. What the bureaucrat icons didn't realize was that Earth had spent centuries perfecting the art of bureaucratic chaos. The form James sent was actually a recursive loop of paperwork. Each completed form required 3 more forms to validate it, and those forms needed to be authenticated by forms that could only be obtained by filling out the original form. Meanwhile, Klaxon and his fellow reformed Zixtorians had joined the resistance in their own unique way. They began submitting thousands of perfectly formatted feedback surveys about the bureaucraticans' invasion attempt, each one rating them slightly differently and requesting a personal response to their concerns about the invasion's carbon footprint. But this creates a paradox, the chief form validator protested as their systems tried to process the logical impossibility of Earth's paperwork. "How can we file the forms to process the forms we need to file the original forms?" "Oh, you'll need to submit that question through the proper channels," James replied. "I believe that's Form 27B/6, Request for Clarification of Paradoxical Documentation Requirements. Would you like me to send you the form to request that form?" The bureaucraticans' mighty filing cabinet began to shake as their processors attempted to handle humanity's bureaucratic warfare. Emergency drawers began opening and closing randomly, spewing clouds of digital paperwork into space. That's when humanity deployed their secret weapon. They submitted every single piece of documentation in perfect order, except they deliberately misaligned all the staples. "This is inhumane," the chief form validator wailed as their ship's systems began to overload. Do you have any idea how many regulations this violates? The proper staple angle is clearly defined in subsection 7, paragraph 4, subparagraph 2.5 of the Universal Documentation Standards. But humanity wasn't done yet. Led by a crack team of retired postal workers and public sector employees, they began exploiting every loophole, questioning every redundant procedure, and submitting forms in technically correct but infuriating ways. The final blow came when Earth submitted their official response to the invasion, as a chain email that had to be forwarded to at least 10 other civilizations to avoid bad luck. The bureaucraticans' mighty vessel, unable to process the sheer chaos of human administrative warfare, began to transform. Filing cabinet drawers collapsed in on themselves, forms spontaneously combusted, and rubber stamps melted in despair. In light of these irregular circumstances, the chief form validator announced through gritted teeth, we find ourselves forced to withdraw our invasion plans. Your species' approach to documentation is simply too unpredictable. We'll need that in writing, James replied cheerfully. Preferably notarized by a minimum of 12 different species, with supporting documentation from at least 3 parallel universes. The bureaucrat icons fled, leaving behind only a perfectly formatted memo declaring Earth a documentation disaster zone and recommending that all future invasions be preceded by at least 700 years of preparatory paperwork. In the aftermath, Earth found itself in an unusual position. Their reputation for defeating alien invasions through increasingly absurd means had made them both feared and respected throughout the galaxy. The Zixtorians had successfully integrated their corporate culture with human-style chaos, creating the galaxy's first consulting firm specializing in strategic awkwardness management. Klaxon, now running a successful self-help empire with bestsellers like Who Moved My Embarrassment and The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Cringe, had become Earth's unofficial ambassador to the stars. As for Commander James Romano, he received a special commendation for his service, though the ceremony was slightly delayed when someone accidentally played Never Gonna Give You Up instead of the military march, creating what Klaxon described as a perfect moment of orchestrated awkwardness. You know what the strangest part is? James remarked to Parker as they watched Earth's new hybrid defense system being installed, a combination of traditional military technology and what appeared to be a giant space-worthy rubber chicken. I'm starting to think our greatest weakness might actually be our greatest strength. How so, sir? Well, look at us. We took embarrassment and turned it into entertainment. We took bureaucracy and turned it into a weapon. Makes you wonder what other supposedly negative human traits might actually be superpowers in disguise. As if on cue, their sensors picked up a new signal. Another alien species was approaching Earth, and according to their initial message, they were deeply concerned about humanity's complete lack of adherence to proper restaurant etiquette. James looked at Parker, then at Klaxon, who was already excitedly knitting a food-themed sweater vest. Well, he said with a grin, should we show them how Earth does dinner theater? The end.